Hey everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. We're here at the DirectTrust conference, and our guest is Angie Bass. She's Chief Strategy Officer at Velatura. Welcome, Angie.
Thank you. Always happy to be a guest.
Yeah, well, I always love having return guests that, bring insightful perspectives. We have a lot to talk about today, health data utilities. But before we go there, tell us a little bit about yourself and Velatura.
Still the strategy officer for Velatura and all of its subsidiaries, and loving doing that. It gives me a great opportunity to help advance things like health data utility. But Velatura is well on its way to continuing the good fight in the health data interoperability world and trying to make sure our healthcare ecosystem is digitally connected.
That's awesome. Well, you're right. Velatura has been a key player in advocating for the health data utility, HDUs as we're calling it now. How do you see this HDU model kind of evolving in the next, say, 2 to 3 years, both at the state but also national level?
Well, we've already had a lot of momentum, and the momentum is not waning for sure. So my goal in 2 to 3 years is that every state is going to be using health data utility as their centralizing force to advance healthcare, the healthcare digital infrastructure, and to put that into all of their clinical programmatic reimbursement, value-based reimbursement initiatives, so that it is the place, the one-stop shop to actually have centralized data that can be used to advance changes in healthcare, the transformation in healthcare. And they're going to do that because the federal government has now enabled them to do that through enabling legislation that has corresponding funding. So that's where I hope we are in 2 to 3 years.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, to me, like the idea of data sharing as a utility makes sense.
Doesn't it?
Rather than trying to make it into a business model,
I will tell you, I've had enough conversations now in the thousands.
Yeah.
No one has ever said, that's a dumb idea. That doesn't make sense. They're all like, yeah, that sounds good. It doesn't sound like it's a volatile issue, and it's not already being done. Like, those are the three general reactions that we get. So
that's my favorite. It's not already being done. Well, let's talk about what would help push that forward. What could federal agencies like HHS or ASTP, of course, formerly known as the artist formerly known as ONC, but agency formerly known as
Only
ONC.
Purple Rain was in the background right
Yeah, that would be nice. Anyway, how could these federal agencies help support the rollout of HDUs across the country? Are there any specific guidance or policies that would help accelerate this adoption?
Well, I mean, we already have report language on the books. Both the House and the Senate passed report language in the labor H bills that basically instruct HHS to do something with health data utility.
Okay.
So if we could just get them to add this to their priority list, we need enabling legislation and a funding mechanism. And so working with stakeholders to get that on the books is the first step. And that's why we, Velatura, and others have been on the Hill most recently to say, hey, don't forget that happened back in March. Time is ticking here.
You can't just
Yeah, and listen, we all know HHS has 1,000,001 priorities. How do you prioritize the priorities? But we need this. And, here at this conference today, we were talking about the importance of cybersecurity and AI and patient identity. And like all of that is wrapped up into what a health data utility is and can be used to help solve and to bring collaborators together to get to the point faster. So we need this and we need it fast.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and another area that I think is really a hot topic for a lot of people in this space is around SDOH, social determinants of health, health equity and patient care, topics like that. How can the HDU model be used to address some of those challenges and talk about the role Velatura plays in making this data actionable for the providers that work with you?
Sure. Well, the whole point of a health data utility is to be a centralizing force in the infrastructure space, in the programmatic space, and the convening of all of the actors and stakeholders in this space. So it's the one place to go where you've got a centralized infrastructure that's supported like a public utility so that everyone can then participate and receive the value-added services that it provides. And in that ecosystem approach, you obviously, of course, have to include socioeconomic data. So you're going to have your SDOH partners and actors and investors, and they now get to come to the clinical space, to the payer space, through a centralized infrastructure that's being supported like a public utility. And so by the way nature of that, you're already making sure you're inclusive environment, which is important. And so let the use cases fall where they will. And then Velatura and other HDUs alike get to be a part of that. And that's really, really important to make sure that we are walking the walk and talking the talk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you highlight there's a lot of use cases, right? Like there's a lot of opportunity here. And I think HDUs for a lot of organizations and a lot of, healthcare is becoming more integral to that health data exchange. As you look at, Velatura's path forward, what kind of partnerships or collaborations are you pursuing to kind of enhance what you can offer your customers at Velatura?
Yeah, well, they are vast and very important. As the health data utility, we want to be the centralizer of sourcing data, cleansing data, making sure the data quality is key, and then being able to plate it up to stakeholders to go do great things with it. But along the way, we need people that are going to help us. So our collaborators right now are really in the sourcing of data, the cleansing and normalization of data, so we have good data quality, and then making sure we have collaborators that can help us develop good use cases, especially as we venture into places like AI, making sure we are partnering with commercial partners that are good actors and can be good stewards of data. And then we need all the technology players that help with privacy and security. Cybersecurity is top of mind. Patient identity is top of mind. Consent management is top of mind. So all of the basics of health data exchange, they're never going to go away. You are going to have sound partnerships and all of that. And we can't build it all. We have to drop in partners. We have to have collaborators and to make this all work. And health data utilities are brilliant because that's exactly what we're really good at, is bringing it all together. So
yeah, that's a good point. And you mentioned AI. I don't think we can have a healthcare technology topic without AI, or
not anymore.
It feels like, right? But I'd say, if I were to look at the two fastest moving things in healthcare right now, it's AI, but also data interoperability and the sharing of data. I mean, those both seem, and they're somewhat related, right? How is Velatura preparing your network to be able to adapt to all these changes to both the interoperability landscape, but also AI everything?
Well, we definitely have our ear to the ground right now on, what can we reasonably achieve right now? What do we need to be on the lookout for? And so we do hope to have an AI announcement coming at the Civitas conference coming up. So
a little teaser.
A little
like
teaser
that.
about that. So we're excited. But all to say is we need to use AI responsibly. So we want to make sure we're taking advantages of the opportunity that it can provide. But we also need to make sure that it's a regulated space. And so we also very much care about being at the table with regulators to offer our perspective and our opinion from the health data interoperability world and the ecosystem, because we provide relevant perspective. And so making sure that perspective is recognized as the regulatory scenarios play out, we want to make sure we're there too.
Yeah, well, and in some ways you have the gold of AI. That makes AI valuable, which is the data. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, the sharing of data to enable AI and to solve a lot of problems. I think often, and this is a bit of a historical look at data sharing, it was about, well, we just need to share the data. That's it, right? And I think we've evolved a lot. I'd love to hear, as you look ahead, where do you see these opportunities for Velatura and even HDU models in general to drive meaningful change rather than just, I gave you the data, figure it out, right? I feel like that's where we're headed, right? And maybe, I'd love to hear, where do you see it going ahead to be able to create this meaningful change and be able to share data to really impact care?
Well, sharing the data is a commodity. You must. At this point, you must share the data. And then when you have it, cool. Then what? It's not about sharing the data anymore. It's what value are you going to create because you have the data, and what you do with the data. And then who is going to benefit? Is the consumer population going to benefit? Are providers going to benefit? Are payers, whoever? How can we drive the transformation of healthcare because we've now not only shared the data, but done something constructive with it. It is, what two data sets did you merge together? What cleanliness did you add to be able to provide a data set to decision makers or appropriators or regulators? Because now they have seen that we can target specific sectors of patients or a patient to be able to identify conditions or social impacts to healthcare. Like, how are we going to now use the data as pieces of business intelligence in healthcare? Healthcare is a business. How do we make it intelligent to make more intelligent decisions about it? And that's really where it is. And for us, really focusing on consent management and data quality are the two constructs that are the underbelly of all of that, because we can have good data if we have good data entry. So it's, the behaviors that go into creating data so it's not trash in, trash out. And then making sure that we still keep that layer of trust in the data exchange world, making sure providers are trusting that they can share data, and ultimately the patients are good with it as well. That trust factor is imperative still. So making sure that we don't forget our roots and all of that are really the success for being able to use healthcare data as business intelligence.
Yeah. Well, it's on point here at the DirectTrust conference. I think that's the theme, is how do we create trust in this data sharing? Do we have consent? Is the data clean where we can trust it and we can use it and we're not going to get a lawsuit later?
Right.
Which is a big topic as well.
Well, and then, are we all equipped from a liability perspective that if something should happen, we are protected? We've got ability to recover. We've got ability to remediate. I mean, I think at some level, we all have to sort of wait at bated breath for the thing that we all don't want to happen. And then it's, do we have the resources that we need at our disposal to be able to remediate and recover? Because, we've seen now with the Change Healthcare, like what it's going to take to remediate and recover. And imagine if you were small, right? I mean, your ability to do those things is significantly less. So we've got to make sure that there is protections built in the system financially, financial ability to be able to recover and remediate across the board. This is a health equity issue, 100%.
Absolutely. Angie, I always appreciate talking to you and learning from you and all the work you're doing at Velatura. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcasting applications. Thanks, Angie.
Thanks. That was